genetics and the breeders of the commercial purpose, and these are the chemicals isolated, refined. Okay, these are the two claims of the right. One is the wild relatives cultivated plants and the domesticated animals and ancestral species. Another one is the improved and high yielding cultivators produced by the geneticists and the breeders from the commercial purposes. These are the chemicals are the isolated, refined, tested and the commercially by the pharmaceutical companies. Okay, these are the two. And what are the Biological Diversity Act 2002? The Biological Diversity Act 2002 was passed in the Indian Parliament and received the assent of the President of 5th February 2003. The basic idea was the protect rights of the sovereign nation of the utilizing and conservation these the biodiversity resources. The Biological Diversity Act India 2002 is are the containing including the 12 chapters. What are the 12 chapters? The chapter 1 is the main important is the preliminary aspects. The chapter 1 is there containing the preliminary preliminary aspects. One is the short title, extent, commencement of the act, and definition. These are the in the chapter 1 they are containing the preliminary aspects. What are the preliminary aspects? Title. The next one is the commencement of the act. Next one is definition. These are the preliminary aspects. The chapter 2 it contains the regarding regulation access of the biological diversity and covers the following classes. One is the certain persons not to undertake biodiversity related activities without approval of the National Biodiversity Authority (NBA). Mainly, certain persons not a undertake biodiversity related activities without approval of the National Biodiversity Authorities. National Biodiversity Authorities. Next one. Next topic. Next point is the results of research not be transferred to the certain persons without the approval of the National Biodiversity Authority. Section 3 and 4 are the act are not applicable certain the collaboration research activities lies. Actually, in chapter first chapter they are containing the two sections. The second chapters are containing the 5 sections. Okay, the sixth one is the sixth section is the application for the IPR not to be made without the approval of the National Biodiversity Authority. The prior intimation to be the state biodiversity boards in obtaining biological resource for the certain purposes. The third chapter is second chapter is over. The third chapter is the okay different this third chapter also they're containing the regarding of the National Biodiversity Act and covers of the some of the classes. One is the 8th class, the establishment of the NBA, National Biodiversity Act, establishment of the National Biodiversity Act. Actually, National Biodiversity is the autonomous body, the statutory autonomous body under the Ministry of Environment, Forest, and the Climate Change, Government of India. Condition of the services chairperson and the members. Especially third chapter is the including of the establishment and the next one chairperson and the members. These are the all are the including the under comes to the chapter 3, chairperson to chief executive of the Nation Biodiversity and the removal of the members, meeting of the Nation Biodiversity Act. Next one is the officers and the employments of the National Biodiversity Act. Next one is the authentication of orders and decision of the Nation Biodiversity, delegation of powers, expanses of the national biodiversity to be defrayed out of the consolidated the FANA and the FANA of India. Chapter 3 is over. Chapter 4 is the chapter mainly functions and the powers of the Nation Biodiversity Act. Mains are the function and powers of the Nation Biodiversity Acts. Next one, chapter 5 mainly is the including of the approval of the Nation Biodiversity for the undertaking certain activities, transfer of biological resource and knowledge, determination of the equitably benefits sharing by Nation Biodiversity Authority, deals with, and the chapter 6 is the deals with the establishment of the state biodiversity board, SBBB. Okay, next one, functions of the state biodiversity board. Next one is the power of the, these are the all are under come to the chapter 6. In the chapter 7 is the mainly grants and loans of the central government. Mainly these are the including the finance deals, the finance, some finance related issues also they under comes to the chapter 7. Grants and loans of the central government, the constitution of the Nation Biodiversity Funds, annual report of the Nation Biodiversity Authority, a budget, accounts and audits, annual report of the to be laid before the parliament. These are the all around comes the chapter 7. Chapter 8 mainly is also containing the finance and audits. Chapter 9 also is including of the central government and the state government of the classes. Central government develop the national strategies and plans for the conservation of the biological diversity, heritage sites, power of the central government to notify threatened the species. Next, power of the central government designate the repositories. Power of the central government exempt the certain biological resources. All are come to the chapter 9. Chapter 10 mainly are the this chapter is the constitution of the biodiversity management and the committees, mainly committees. Chapter 11 also the local biodiversity fund, and the next one is the grants of the local bodies of the fund, constitution of the local bodies of fund, the application of the local biodiversity fund, annual reports of the local bodies. The chapter 12th also they're containing the mainly various different types of the miscellaneous pertaining the biodiversity for Nation Biodiversity Authority bond to be the direction given by the central government, power of state government of the give directions, settlement of the disputes of the between the state biodiversity, the protection and action of the taken by the order, protection of the action taken by the good faith, penalties for the conservation orders in the central government, state government, national biodiversity, offenses of the companies, offenses to be the cognizable to the non-cognizable, the act of to effect of the addition of the other liable, and next one is the cognizance of the offense, power of the central government make rules, power of the state and government makes, power of the remove of the difficulties. The all are the miscellaneous activities also under comes the chapter 12. Next one, what are the major relevant provisions of the central acts relating the agriculture and the proceed food products export development authority 1995 and 1996, agriculture produce grading and marketing act 1937, cardamom act 1965, coconut development board act 1979, customs act 1962, Destructive Insects and the Pests Act 1944. And next one, the Environment Protection Act 1986 and 87. And next one, the Fisheries Act is the 1987. This Forest Act 1927. The Forest Conservation Act 1947. Some of the Import and Export Control Act 1947. Wildlife Protection Act 1997. Mainly these are the all are the under comes the Biodiversity Act. The for main some of the efforts made by the common people and the NGOs, also non-governmental organization, voluntary agencies, and as well as the government. Some of the efforts are directed towards by the for sustaining life support systems to meet the challenges in urbanization and industrialization, for conserving the biodiversity, for capacity building for the sustainable development. Next one is the to globalize challenge sustainable development. These are all are the Biodiversity Act. Actually, the build up the rights of the obligations of biodiversity. Seventh meeting on the conference in Kuala Lumpur, 2004. Next one is the in 2012, National Biodiversity organized the first ever National Biodiversity Congress (NBC) held in the Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala. Next one, NBA is supported the certain state biodiversity acts. 29 states are the facilitate established around the 1,39,810 BMCs. National Biodiversity Authority also mandated the regulate access to biological resource and associate knowledge the for topic. Okay, next one. The mainly the detailed application of the access and the benefits of sharing of the ASP aspect National Biodiversity Authority, and the most motto quote of the Association of the Symbiosis Law School, mainly in Nagpur. Okay, these are all are the under comes to the National Biodiversity Act. Okay, next one is the IUCN and Red Data Book. What is the meaning of the IUCN? United Nation of the International Union of the Conservation of Nature and the Natural Resources, IUCN. Mainly these are the is established. What are the is located in the Switzerland? God. Mainly these are the establishment of the five main conservation of the categories are extinct, endangered, vulnerable, rare, and the insufficiently known species. IUCN is the World Conservation of the Union. These are the premier according to the body international conservation efforts. IUCN in recently IUCN Forum 2024, joined private sector and the government, indigenous peoples, youth leaders. Mainly are the organizing Switzerland in October 8 to 10th in 2024. Next one, IUCN actually number of species about the IUCN is established in 1964. International Union of Conservation of Nature, Red List and Threatened Species. Mainly global extinction risk status of the animal and fungus and the plant species. IUCN is the list of the critical indicator of the health of the world biodiversity, far more than the list of the species up to their the status. IUCN red list is used by the government agencies. 1964. IUCN list is used by the government agencies, wildlife department, and conservation related non-governmental organization (NGOs), and natural resource planners, education organization, the students, and the business communities. The red list process has become the massive enterprise involving the IUCN biodiversity assessment and knowledge team staff, partner organization, and expert in the IUCN species survival commission and the partner works. The IUCN is the red list to the independently product today. The today to date in the many species groups including the mammals, amphibians, birds, reptiles, the building of the corals, the conifers have been the comprehensively assessed. Currently, there are the more than 1,63,000 species on the IUCN red list, with the more than the 45,300 species are the threatened with the extinction, including the 41% of the amphibians, 37% of the sharks and shark rays, and the 36% of the reef building corals, 34% of the conifers, 26% of the mammals, and 12% of the birds. Increase in the assessment will help of the build the IUCN red list into the more complete barometer of the life. To do this, we need the increase of the number of species assessed to the at least 26 sorry 2,60,000 species and reach the 1,42,000 species information. The red list partnership. Some of the red data book is the especially are the containing the endangered and extinct species, rare species also in the IUCN. Okay. The next one is the red dot book category used by IUCN indicate degree of the threat to the individual species of the wildlife habitats. There are the used for the both flora and the fauna. The formal definition categories is already uh, different types of the fauna and the flora. Fauna especially animal list. The flora is the plant species also. The number of species are the threatened mainly discussed the IUCN. Extinction process. The extinction of the species may be due to the environmental factors, ecological substitution, biological factors, and the pathological factors, others, anthropogenic interference, the form of the habitat destruction, human overkilling, overexploitation. Also, these all are factors are the effect of the extinction of the process. I mean, overexploitation, human overkill, and next one is the habitat destruction, pathological causes, the biological factors, all factors are the affecting the extinction process. Concept of the rarity of the some of the species, a rare species of the and that occurs the widely separated the small subpopulation, so that the interbreeding between the subpopulation the seriously reduce or is restricted the single population. The basic reason of the rarity of plant and the animals of the species, narrow habitat, low climatic tolerance, specialized adaptations, poor dispersal strategies, few seeds for the fruit, and the poor viability of the seeds, long generation of the periods, the large size of the with narrow habitat tolerance, and biological aspect of the rare plant conservation 1981, The some of the basic approaches monitoring the rare plant populations, demographic approaches, genetic approaches, resources allocation of the approaches. Okay, these are the main. The procedure of the listing the species in the scientific community and the rejection of the unfounded nomination. Scientific community, national state organization, states, the public in other. Okay. Next one is the strategies for the conservation of the rare and endangered species. The guidelines for the preparation of the states of the reports according to the Morse and the FN, the 1981 Geographical Data Organization for the Rare Plant Conservation Species Information. Mainly that's what type of the species are the information. Classic in the nomenclature is very important. The present legal and the other formal status, description, significancy, geographical distribution, environment and the habitat, population biology, the assessment of the recommendations, information sources, authorships, the all are uh, the all are the strategies for the conservation of the rare and the endangered species. Next one is the topic is the hotspots. Mainly according to in 2024 data, totally throughout the world, 36 areas of the qualify the hotspots. What is the meaning of the hotspots? Hotspots mean the rich biodiversity, richness of the plant species and the flora and the fauna. 36 hotspots is there in the throughout the world. These are the intact habitat respect. The intact habitats represent the just 2.5% of the earth lands, and next one is the these are the mainly, but the support more than half of the world plant species are the endemics. And next one is the species and the found no place reptile, the amphibian species also. Hotspots actually in throughout the world, 36 hotspots is there. The 36 hotspots of the throughout the world. In India, they are containing the 4 hotspots. Western Ghats. Next one is the Himalayan regions. Next one is the Indo-Burma region. Next one is the Icelands. These are the 4 hotspots are there in India. The throughout the world, 36 hotspots is there. Mainly, these are the biodiversity. Biodiversity hotspots also, the biogeographical region with the significant levels of the biodiversity. That is the threatened the human habitation. Actually, the biodiversity, the term is given by the Norman Mayers in 1988. Okay. At the same time, Norman Mayer also is giving the hotspots, mainly earth and biological richest and the most endangered terrestrial ecoregions. One minute. Norman Mayer actually in 1988, the term is given by the biodiversity arts for the first kind by the Norman Mayers in 1988. He recognized the 10 tropical forests at the hotspots according to the level of the plant endemism. and the high level of the habitat loss. Next one, that after 2 years later is the 18. The now the 36 hotspots is there. Biodiversity, what are the biodiversity hotspots in the world? According to Conservation International, there are the 36 biodiversity rich areas is there. Overall, that have been the qualified as 36 hotspots. These are the region represent just 2% of the earth land surface, but the support of over of the 50% of the world's endemic plant species, including the nearly 43% of the birds, mammals. Name of the hotspots, the 36 hotspots is there. In India, actually, Indo-Burma region, Sundarland. Next one is the Himalaya region, Western Ghats, and the Sri Lanka. These are the 4 hotspots in India. What are the criteria of the qualifying the biodiversity hotspot? Reason is that the meet two strict criteria qualifying the biodiversity hotspots. One is the it must have the at least 1500 vascular plants in the endemic, which are to say it must have the high percentage of plant life found. Now here also the planet hotspots is the words. Main how many plant species actually vascular plants? 1500 vascular plants. This is one of the criteria of the hotspots. Next one, another one is the it must have 30% or less. It's the original natural vegetation. On the other words, it must be threatened. The one of the criteria of the hotspots. Okay, hotspots. And what are the biodiversity in India? The another important topic is the biodiversity in India. Biodiversity in India in present scenario. According to 2023 data, the world is the facing the unprecedented the challenge of the climate change. It consequence of the climate change are the already begin to the felt around the world from the rising sea levels of the more extreme weather events in India, impact of the climate change, the particularly serve with the rising temperature, more frequent droughts, and the increasing of the affecting of the millions of the people. One of the most important ways that can address the climate change and the protect the planet by focusing on biodiversity. Biodiversity refers to the variety of life earth and including the and genetic diversity. India is the one of the most biodiverse in the countries in the world with a rich variety of the flora and fauna that are the found nowhere else in the air. Biodiversity under the threat and the urgent action need of the protect. The importance of the biodiversity in India can be overstated. India is the home to the more than 45,000 plant species and 90,000 animal species are though including the iconic Bengal tiger, Asiatic lion, Indian rhinoceros, and the Indian elephant. This rich biodiversity life is not only the important its own sake, but it also plays the critical role of the supporting human well-being. Biodiversity provides us with a range of the ecosystem services, including clean and water, the fertile soils, and the pollination services that are the essential for the agriculture and food security. Moreover, the biodiversity also important for the culture and the spiritual reasons. India is the rich biodiversity deeply connected to the cultural heritage and the many traditional practices and the beliefs are the based on the deep respect for the natural world. Preserving this is the biodiversity is the therefore not only important for the ecological and the economic value, but also cultural significance. Biodiversity mainly, despite of the importance, India is the biodiversity under the threat, habitat loss, pollution, climate change, and the over exploitation of natural resources are though also contributing to the loss of species and ecosystem. This loss of biodiversity is not a only in the tragedy in its own right, but also is the profound implications for the human well-being. Some of the important product of the India biodiversity and address threat of the climate change. There are the many things also individuals of the community can be to make the differences. The first and foremost need to raise the awareness about the importance of the biodiversity and the threats that is the facing. This can be done through the education and the outreach programs that are the engage the people of all ages, backgrounds from the school children, policy makers also they can participate in the protecting of the biodiversity. Mainly, mainly they are the focusing of the events of the Earth Day to focus attention on the need of the protect biodiversity and take action to the address of the climate change. The second aspect also to take action to the protect and restore of the ecosystem and habitats. This can be done by through the range of measures, including of the reforestation, wetland restoration, and the creation of the protected areas. By restoring ecosystems, we can play support the biodiversity and important ecosystem service provides. The third one is the promote sustainability development practices that the uh, prioritize biodiversity and ecosystem services. This can be done by through the policies that promote the sustainable agriculture, sustainable forestry. Finally, we need encourage and support of the community-based conservation efforts. This can be done through the certain of the community-based conservation areas, which allow the local communities to take the ownership in the natural sources of the promote sustainable uses. The addition all are the aspect are the educating the children about the importance of the biodiversity and climate change. Parents also can encourage the children participate in the local conservation efforts, such planting of the trees, cleaning of the local parks, and participating in the citizen sciences projects. Parents can also model sustainable behaviors such as the reducing the carbon footprint and the promoting sustainable consumption practices. India in the biodiversity in India after the Earth Summit to develop the harmony and secure the sustainable future through the conservation of the biological health. The expert groups and NGOs are authorized the follow the these rules in prepare the status reports of the and the biodiversity. They also accelerate to the process of the conservation and the sustainable use of the natural resources through the program on scientific lines. The groups of the following some of the aspects: survey and identification monitoring, in situ conservation, ex situ conservation, sustainable use, access to and transfer to technology, research training and the cooperation, legal measures, the strengthen of the impact of the measurements. All are the analysis of existing central laws relevant to biological diversity has revealed that there are the significant gaps in the existing legal and regulatory measures. Some of the framework action plan develop the rights and the protect of the biodiversity, documentation, conservation, research and monitoring, and the sustainable utilization, public participation, and the benefit sharing, the formulation of the policy and the planning generation finances, instituting the building and the activities technology development, program and human resource in the development, legal measures and biosafety also. These are all our aspects are when it comes to the maintenance the biodiversity. Next one, biosafety. What is the meaning of the biosafety and recent past and the links between the biodiversity and the biotechnology are well studied, and it's the concern regarding the risk and the hazards arising from the genetically modified organisms throughout the discussion. Mainly, the main concern are the biosafety, impact on the environment and ecosystem, effect on human health. The biosafety covers policies and the produce adapted to ensure the environmental safe applications in biotechnology. The risk can be broadly classified to risk for the animals and the human health. What are the risks are the mainly toxicity, food quality, allergies, antibiotic resistancy. These are the risk factors for the animals and the human health. Risk for the environment. What are the risk for the environment? Accessibility of non-target organisms, increased use of the chemicals and the agricultures, unpredicted gene expression, genetic pollution. These are the mainly effect of the environment, risk environment. Next one is the risk for the agriculture, resistance tolerance to target organisms, needs are the super needs. What are the general concerns of the biosafety? Loss of familiarity, higher cost of agriculture, ethical issues. Okay, risk for the interaction with non-targeted organisms, horizontal gene transfer of the foreign gene microbes, DNA uptake, generation of new live viruses by recombination. Number of legal and voluntary organizations are working the various countries for the biosafety, mainly different biosafety, Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, US Department of Agriculture, USDA, the Federal Drug Administration is all are the under the biosafety mechanism in USA, in Canada, Australia. Okay. Next one is the biodiversity threats and the protection of biodiversity bill in 2000. What are the threats and the protection of the biodiversity bill 2000? Mainly, the total number of species on the earth today is the range between the 1 to 15 million, or the possibility much more. The biological diversity occurs within the all habitats because genetic diversity has allowed the life to adapt to the harshest in the environments. Tropical forests cover the richest biodiversity and equally to the depopulation rate from the areas also very high. The extinction of the species has also been natural fast evolution. The most serious aspect of the loss of biodiversity is the extinction of the species. The population and the communities can be degraded and the reduced in area, but as long as original species Most serious aspect of the loss of biodiversity is the extinction of the species. IUCN categories of the species also. IUCN according to 1908 as the highlight of the legal status of the rare species, purpose of the conservation based on the present and the past distribution, decline in number of population in the course of time, abundance and the abundance and quality of natural habitats, biology and the potential value of the species. What are the IUCN category consists of the biodiversity are extinct. What is the meaning of the extinct? Species that are the no longer known to exist in the wild. The species that are the no longer known to exist in the wild. Search for the localities where they were the once found and other possible sites will the detect of the species. Endangered. What is the meaning of the endangered? Species that have the high likelihood of going extinct in the near future. Near future. Mainly the species have the high likelihood of going extinct in the near future. Vulnerable. What is the meaning of the vulnerable? The species that may become endangered in the near future. Become endangered in the near future because population of the species are decreasing in size throughout its range. Rare species have the small total number of individuals often due to the limited geographical ranges or low population densities. Rare species, some species also small total of number of individuals often due to the limited geographical ranges or low population densities. Insufficiently known, the species that the probably belong one of the conservation categories but are not sufficient well known to be based on the assigned to specific category. Threatened. What is the meaning of the threatened? Threatened, the species which are is one of the categories of endangered, vulnerable, and rare. Some species are the marked threatened to the. It is known that they are the endangered, vulnerable, or rare, but there are not enough information so to say which is the categories is appropriate. Out of danger, the species that include the taxa formerly include in one of the above categories, but which are now considered relatively secure because the effective conservation measures have been taken. The previous threats that the surveil have been removed. According to Maysel Land in 1991, classification probability of the extinction critical. What is the meaning of the critical? Species with the 50% or greater probability of extinction within 5 years or two generation which are the longer. Critical mean species of the 50% or greater probability of extinction within the 5 years or two generation which never is longer. Critical. And endangered, the species with the 20% of probability extinction within 20 years or 10 generations. Vulnerable species with the 10% of the probability extinction within the 100 years. The global loss of the biodiversity has described the product of two phenomena. One is the population levels have forced the transformation of relatively undistributed Okay, next one. The some of the categories of species are the most vulnerable extension. Such species are the need the careful maintain the manage. A species with a very narrow geographical range, species with only one or few populations, species in which population size is small, species with low population density, species that need to large home range, species that have the large body size, species with the low rates of the population, species that are not effective dispersants, species that the migrate, and the species that the little genetic variability, the species with the specialized niche requirements, species that are the characteristically found stable environment, species that are the form permanent and the temporary aggregations, species that are the hunted in the next one. What are the causes for the loss of the biodiversity? These are the very important. Habitat destruction, habitat fragmentation, habitat degradation and pollution, introducing the exotic species, over exploration, next one the shifting and zoom cultivation, disease, hunting, deforestation, other factors also they can affect up the loss of birds. The first one is the habitat destruction. What is the meaning of the habitat destruction? Habitat loss is the primary threat of the major plants and animals which are the facing extinction. The natural habitat destroyed by the man for is the settlement, grazing grounds, agriculture, mining, industries, highway construction, drainage, damage building, etc. Mainly the results of the species of the migrate adapt to the changes, succumb and prediction of the starvation or disease and the ultimately die. It increased the human population 1 billion across in 1852 in 2000 6 billion population is the these are the primary factors the habitat destruction. Industrial and the commercial activity also associated with the global economy responsible for the huge amounts of the habitat loss in the forest, tropical dry forest, wetlands, mangroves, and grassland. With habitat destruction in the immediate effect on the wildlife, as they are the losing their the came up more than the 50% of the wildlife habitat has been the destroyed in 49 out of the 61 world tropical countries. And next one is the habitat fragmentation. What is the by human activities like the laying roads, fields, towns, canals, and power lines. Habitat fragmentation. Next one, habitat degradation and the pollution. The most prominent form of the habitat degradation is environmental pollution. The most common causes and indiscriminate the application of the pesticides, industrial and the chemical emissions of toxic substances from the industries, the generation of the hazardous gases from the automobiles, sulfur and nitrogen oxides, acid rains, ozone depletion, the greenhouse effect, etc. The direct effects of the loss of biodiversity, the aquatic pollution of the eutrophication. What is the meaning of the eutrophication? The algal species also high amount of the algal species of the out of the sea and the eutrophication, the BOD biological oxygen demand, the COD chemical oxygen demand, heavy metals. These all are the destroys the aquatic habitat and the cause of the extinction of the aquatic flora and fauna. The deposition of the xenobiotics in soil, water degrades, the habitats and the biodiversity drastically altered. Noise pollution also the cause of the migration and extinction of the wildlife. Introduction to exotic species. Uh, and introduction of the exotic species and the composition and the successfully colonization is the responsible destruction of indigenous species. There are the four chief factors of the introduction of the exotic species: European colonization, horticulture, agriculture, accidental transport. These are the four types of the introduction of the exotic species. 1 minute. Excuse me.